Good evening, I'm Ian Hannamansing. New travel restrictions as Canada fights to keep COVID variants out. Today, flights to some vacation destinations are cancelled and a warning that other changes are landing soon.
I would ask people to be prepared.
We're not messing around.
Vancouver police hand partygoers $17,000 in fines for violating public health orders. The CBC's Chris Brown is there as police brutally crack down on protesters in Moscow.
Definitely a day of violence.
And an unmistakable guitar riff, a look at the life of the man who wrote it. This is The National. Canada is cracking down on travel amid fears that COVID variants could undermine efforts to slow down the virus. Hard-hit provinces are seeing tentative progress, but still people continue to die at an alarming rate. Canada's pandemic death toll has now surpassed 20,000. How we got here, a rise in daily new cases that appears to have peaked 3 weeks ago. The wave of hospitalizations started to level off soon after. And finally, a death toll that grew to an average of about 140 people a day, where for now it remains. Variants of the virus threaten to supercharge the pandemic, though. New travel restrictions are aimed at blocking more of those cases from coming in. As Talia Ricci shows us, even as we learn details on where they come into effect, the rules are already having an impact.
Some travelers were prepared to adapt to new restrictions.
I purposefully bought a ticket that would allow me to make a change rapidly.
Others say they'd be getting on a plane regardless.
I'm heading to Colombia, to Bogota, and then off to Santa Marta, and then off into the mountains of Sierra Nevada to set up a healing retreat.
Ottawa's rules may not be an outright ban on non-essential travel, but for some it's already having that effect. Starting today, Canadian Airlines have cancelled all flights to and from the Caribbean and Mexico until April 30th. A new mandatory quarantine is coming, which must be spent in a hotel, costing at least $2,000 paid for by the traveler while they wait for test results. On Rosemary Barton Live, the Minister of Transport warned that could start this week.
I would ask people to be prepared as soon as February 4th hits.
The global spread of coronavirus variants is adding urgency to tighter travel restrictions.
If we're looking at international travel during a pandemic, there is a higher, responsibility on the part of the travelers, and I think that sounds fair, honestly.
Ontario is among the provinces racing to test and screen for the new variants.
Starting to do the testing with the variant will really help public health see exactly where it is, and if there is a fast spread, they can understand it.
Later this week, all international flights except cargo flights will be required to land in Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, or Montreal, leaving people in other cities to book connecting flights home. For many, the disruptions have already begun. This man's negative COVID-19 result expired on his way to Newfoundland. It's his third day now living at the airport, waiting for a new result.
I give to the guys the one he's clean. I give him like $2. Can you clean this area? And he clean it. And I have a carpet I bought and I sleep on it. That's it. And I use my bag to make it like a pillow.
Talia, that man was stranded by a pre-boarding test, but starting soon, it won't be the only COVID test that travelers need to take.
That's right. Starting tomorrow at Pearson Airport, mandatory COVID-19 testing for international arrivals begins. And it's expected in the coming days that measure will be implemented in other Canadian cities where international flights can land. Ian, this is all about layers of inconvenience and expense to discourage people from traveling, but also to keep new virus cases out.
All right, Talia, thank you. A man has been arrested and 77 people fined after police say they broke up at a party at what they describe as a makeshift nightclub in a Vancouver penthouse. Police were first called to the address last weekend after someone reported a party. The owner wouldn't let them in, so they handed fines to someone acting as a doorman. Last night they showed up again, this time with a warrant.
This should be a warning to anyone who feels that the rules don't apply to them, anyone who feels that they're above the law. We're not messing around. We take this seriously.
In total, $17,000 in fines were issued. The party host arrested under the Public Health Act. In British Columbia, gathering with anyone outside your household is banned. As Quebec's premier considers relaxing restrictions, the COVID picture there may be slowly brightening. 1,223 new cases were reported today. That's below the 7-day rolling average, and it's an indication the trend may be changing. Hospitalizations are at the lowest level so far this year, but will all of this last? Matt Dumore looks at the pros and cons of easing the rules.
Restaurants and bars closed, non-essential retailers on pause, and a curfew that starts at 8 p.m. There isn't much for Quebecers to go out and do these days. This Montrealer decided on a walk and a relaxing day at home, even though it's a special day.
Today is my birthday and I just wanted to, do a me-only birthday. I'm gonna have some good food, I'm gonna enjoy, take a bath, read. What else can we do?
This weekend, Quebec Premier François Legault posted a lengthy message about COVID-19 restrictions on social media, telling Quebecers to prepare for announcements this week. The province's nightly curfew was set to last until February 8th, but it's likely to be extended. Last week, Legault said things were improving, but not enough to lift many of the province's restrictions.
We have to be realistic. Most of the measures will continue.
While Legault hasn't said which measures he'll soften, he did write about wanting to give retailers a bit of oxygen. As Quebec and Alberta decide their next steps, Dr. Barry Pecos from the University of Toronto has this warning.
I don't think now is the time to ease the restrictions. Unfortunately, as was mentioned, we not only have a situation where we're still at an uncomfortably high level, 4,000 cases nationally is not a place that we can start going back up from.
The Retail Council of Canada in Quebec expects the industry will be allowed to reopen with added restrictions on hours and capacity. The council has even suggested to the government that people could shop by appointment.
You're going to be able to have a log, a setup where you're going to have to take your appointments, go into the stores. And it's going to be a nice treatment because you're going to have more of a personal service when you go to the store.
Premier Legault said he'd spend the weekend deciding on Quebec's next moves, pointing out that they're hard choices to make. His final call on easing restrictions should be announced on Tuesday. Matt Damour, CBC News, Montreal.
Well, let's bring in infectious disease specialist Dr. Zain Chagla. Dr. Chagla, we just heard Alberta will loosen some of its restrictions later on next month. Quebec looking at doing the same. Is this the right time for provinces and territories to be doing that?
I mean, rates are going down. It doesn't mean that everything needs to open up, but there are certainly a spectrum of different industries and commercial-facing establishments that could likely be opened with precautions in mind. You have to keep limits small and maybe a couple of people in the store. You want to encourage settings where masking is normal. For things like restaurants, you really want to limit it to households if you're expecting people to stay within their households. And you want to make sure you have the public health capacity to contact trace appropriately, to be able to function in society while maintaining schools as well as maintaining some of these businesses. But at the same time, there are ways to make these businesses work. And I think especially some of these low-risk industries, there is a role to consider opening them, knowing that we have precautions and ways to prevent infection.
And is there a particular number or trend line that you look for before you feel that restrictions could be eased?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to see a reproductive rate that's been consistently under 1. You want to see that healthcare capacity is not on the brink. And yeah, you want to see things like schools that are functioning adequately without necessarily changing the game. I think if you have all three of those, then you can make some considerations for low-risk industries to open up.
All right, Dr. Chagla, we'll see you later in the hour.
No problem.
At this stage in the pandemic, some Canadians may feel somewhat frustrated with the COVID-19 restrictions meant to protect all of us. But in some cases, those frustrations have boiled over into alarming anger at health officials, even harassment. Briar Stewart looks at that tonight.
A few dozen gathered in this Regina parking lot this morning because they wanted to send a message to Saskatchewan's public health officer, a much different one than he received last weekend.
Because it was an attack on him personally, as well as attack on the scientific proof of what is going on in our world.
As in other provinces, a small but vocal few have been protesting the COVID-19 restrictions in Saskatchewan. But last week that escalated when some showed up to protest at Dr. Shahab's Regina home, which is why this group wanted to show their support today.
After what happened in front of his house, I'm sure him and his family, that had to be scary, that had to be really hard on him, and I think we just need to say thank you.
There were a few with a different message who also came out, carrying their own signs, and felt the need to film the CBC Radio Canada crew.
Freedom of speech for all.
Dr. Shahab isn't the only public health officer who's faced harassment for recommending health orders. Dr. Bonnie Henry has spoken about it.
I've had to have security in my house. I've had death threats.
And earlier this month, the RCMP charged a man for making threats against the chief public health officer for the Northwest Territories.
To have to feel intimidated, bullied by Canadians, fellow Canadians, for whom you're trying to give the best care and protect, that can be very disheartening and very discouraging, and in some cases scary.
And it can add another layer of stress, says this healthcare worker.
But it's difficult times for everybody, and I recognize the toll it takes on people's mental health, including Dr. Shahab's, I'm sure.
And for others who find themselves a target as they try to steer the provinces and territories through the pandemic. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Vancouver.
Vaccines are seen as the way out of this pandemic, and there are new worries about the supply. The European Union is tightening its export rules, but as Olivia Stefanovic explains, the federal government says that shouldn't hurt Canadians.
Making sure that Canada's vaccine supply is not affected is top priority.
Amid growing supply concerns, reassurance from the International Trade Minister.
I spoke to my EU counterpart yesterday and was reassured that the mechanism that they have in place would not affect Canada's shipments of vaccines.
Mary Ng told Rosemary Barton Live the federal government is working the phones to make sure every Canadian can get a COVID-19 vaccine shot by September.
We are on track with that respect, but we take nothing for granted.
The two vaccines currently approved by Health Canada are manufactured in Europe. The EU is now requiring vaccine makers to get approval before shipping doses overseas.
The aim is to provide us immediately with full transparency.
Canada is already facing production delays from Pfizer and Moderna, leaving some of the most vulnerable waiting.
I'm constantly getting messages that the vaccine is not going to be available. Very, very distressing.
Canada is not on the EU's exemption list, but the federal government says it made advance purchase agreements to secure supply. The opposition says Canada needs more than assurances and more options.
We need to make sure that we get on that exemption list so that we can have certainty.
We have a lack of domestic vaccine production in Canada, and that leaves us vulnerable.
Experts are also concerned Canada is losing the race against the virus.
The longer that it takes to vaccinate people, the greater risk that some of those variants could spread in the community.
But the country may soon have other vaccines in its arsenal. Health Canada is expected to approve AstraZeneca's version in the coming days. Johnson & Johnson and Novavax have also applied for approval. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canadian Senator and Indigenous leader Murray Sinclair officially retired after 5 years in the upper chamber. Speaking to CBC News earlier, Sinclair said that when it comes to reconciliation, politicians alone can only do so much.
It's the people of Canada who actually have to begin to take control of this. We have church congregations who are stepping up, acknowledging the role that their churches play, but at the same time trying to turn it into a positive by saying, now we must do something about this.
Sinclair will remain a busy man with plans to mentor young Indigenous lawyers as well as writing his memoir. A member of the Ojibwe First Nation, Murray Sinclair has spent a lifetime shining a light on Indigenous justice issues. Donald Trump has been forced to find new lawyers after his original legal team quit 1 week before his impeachment trial. Katie Simpson tells us that comes as a Republican launches a campaign to purge Trump from the party.
This is no time for silence.
Not after the last month.
Adam Kinzinger sees his party facing an existential crisis. And in order to survive, Republicans must step out of the shadow of the former president.
It's time to unplug the outrage machine, reject the politics of personality, and cast aside the conspiracy theories and the rage.
He made the appeal in an online fundraising video to support fellow members who disavow Donald Trump. As one of 10 Republicans to vote in favor of impeachment, he's facing significant backlash.
Look, it's really difficult. I mean, all of a sudden imagine everybody that supported you, or so it seems that way, your friends, your family, has turned against you. They think you're selling out.
With just over a week to go before his impeachment trial, Trump hired new lawyers today. His last legal team quit, reportedly because he's clinging to the conspiracy theory that the election was stolen and wants to argue that's why he shouldn't be convicted.
President Trump did not cause the attack on the Capitol on January 6th.
Trump still has plenty of allies on Capitol Hill, including his most vocal supporter, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has amplified lies about election fraud, promoted conspiracy theories, and made Islamophobic and anti-Semitic comments.
I think Republican leaders ought to stand up and say it is totally unacceptable what she has said.
Aside from some Republicans not seeking re-election, including Senator Portman, few in the party have publicly criticized Greene, as she's seen as the new face of the Trump base.
I don't think we ought to punish people from a disciplinary standpoint, a party standpoint, because they think something a little bit different.
Greene is expected to meet with Republican leaders this week, and what happens next will say a lot about the state of the party. If she's punished for her comments, it risks upsetting the pro-Trump wing, and so far, Republican leadership has shown little interest in alienating those voters. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
And a developing story tonight, State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi has been detained in Myanmar in what could be an attempted coup by the military. Other senior figures were detained too, taken during early morning raids, according to her ruling party, the National League for Democracy. The country's powerful military has called for an investigation into alleged voter fraud during November's election. Those claims have been discredited by the country's election commission. The raids came just hours before Parliament's first session since that election. A long-time political prisoner, Suu Kyi was first elected amid hopes for reform, but has since been accused of tolerating a genocide of the Rohingya Muslim minority. And the detention of Russian critic Alexei Navalny was protested in several Canadian cities today. The group walked to Parliament Hill in Ottawa, while the Montreal demonstration was held in front of the Russian consulate. Others were held in Toronto, Edmonton, and Vancouver. But in Russia, the protests were not peaceful. More than 5,000 demonstrators were arrested. And Chris Brown was right there as police cracked down.
Moscow's entire downtown was turned into an armed fortress. Still, the protesters came by the thousands and gathered wherever they could in a powerful rebuke to President Vladimir Putin.
I think he's very, very afraid of what is going on. And that's all. That's what I think. And this is a confirmation of his fear.
In Moscow, many scenes of violence were hard to watch. This man, already overwhelmed, was struck repeatedly by an electric shock device. These terrified women were cornered against a wall, and some were clubbed. One part of the crowd made it to the prison where Navalny is being held, screaming freedom. Police arrived just as we were recording.
We've already had hundreds of arrests here in Moscow. Look, they're taking people away right now. And many people did nothing except for being here.
Our CBC cameraman found himself in the thick of it. This woman was stunned at the brutality. The police should be ashamed of themselves, she told us. How can they do this to other young people? The violence in St. Petersburg was bad too. Among those arrested across Russia were more than 80 journalists covering the protests. Navalny, the anti-corruption crusader, has accused Putin of trying to kill him and was jailed when he returned from Germany. In advance of this weekend's protests, most of his top organizers were arrested too. The Kremlin may be pleased that its oppressive demonstration of force kept protests smaller than last weekend. On the other hand, the defiant turnout suggests anger at Putin and over Navalny's treatment remains potent. Chris Brown, CBC News, Moscow.
Amid lockdowns and store closures, e-transfers are on the rise, and so are cases of fraud. Coming up, some banks are not making the risks clear.
Actually put a warning on the site where they do the transfer. How about that?
Plus, the UK's struggle to keep the virus under control.
The numbers that we're seeing of death and people dying is something that I don't think anybody can fully grasp.
And the U.S. is resuming its effort to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. We hear from her family on the change.
Just because that she's on the 20, it doesn't solve the problem of race in our country.
We're back after the break. More Canadians than ever are sending money through e-transfers in this pandemic. But one woman is speaking out after her money was stolen, and her credit union said it wasn't responsible for reimbursing her. She's one of dozens who have reached out to Go Public, calling for better customer protections. Erica Johnson has the story.
She got burned, so now Alicia Locke is speaking out. The founder of a small snack food company, she was struggling to make sales last fall. The pandemic had shut down local markets and pop-ups that carried her crunchy snacks, so she sold some product to an online retailer who e-transferred her just over $300. When Locke tried to deposit it, no luck.
So I was like, did I deposit it previously and just not remember? But then I went through my transaction history and there was no deposit. So I was like, that's really strange. Maybe it's just a glitch.
But when Locke spoke to a customer service rep at this credit union, she was told someone had intercepted the payment.
Locke says she was also told the credit union had no responsibility to pay her back because e-transfer uses email outside the banking system.
It's not really listed as like a riskier product to use. It's something that they offer to clients. They say it's fast, easy, and secure.
It's also hugely popular. E-transfer use has skyrocketed since the start of the pandemic to an all-time monthly high of 77 million transactions by year's end, leading to calls for banks and credit unions to put clear warnings online.
There can be more information around things that people can do to protect themselves generally when they go on those pages.
Last year, fraudsters made off with nearly $3 million in reported losses, up almost $400,000 from the year before, and investigators consider that the tip of the iceberg. Richard Garner lost almost $600 to e-transfer fraud in November.
Actually put a warning on the site where they do the transfer. How about that? Try that, and maybe you'll be saving a whole bunch of Canadians tons of grief and lost wages.
The Canadian Bankers Association says banks do offer resources to raise awareness of frauds, and the customers should also use safe email, security, and password practices. In the end, Alicia Locke got some sweet news. After GoPublic contacted the credit union, it reimbursed her the stolen money. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
And remember, our Go Public stories start with your tips. So if you have one to investigate, send an email to gopublic@cbc.ca. The U.S. stock market drama continues even ahead of tomorrow's opening bell. Today, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for an investigation into restrictions imposed on buying GameStop shares after another massive climb this week.
Cannot have a stock market where the players are also the refs. That's the fundamental problem here. We need equity for all participants.
Using online brokerage Robinhood, an army of amateur investors has pushed GameStop shares up an incredible 1,600% since the start of January, doing serious financial damage to major hedge funds, short-selling stock of the brick-and-mortar video game store. Robinhood is now accused of manipulating the markets to shore up those big funds by tightly restricting purchases. Now, whatever happens with the GameStop saga, the video game industry itself is booming. With so many people stuck indoors looking to entertain themselves, games are selling so well, it's even creating a boom in jobs. Kayla Hounsell takes a closer look.
Tony Hunt has always played video games, but usually only for a half an hour a day. During the pandemic, it's been up to 5 hours.
It gives me something to do, really takes my mind off everything else that's going on.
Before COVID, he spent most of his time volunteering at the local fire hall, taking kids on tours and organizing fundraising events. With most of that now canceled, he's not the only one turning to video games to pass the time.
There's no question that the pandemic has supercharged the industry.
According to the Entertainment Software Association of Canada, sales are up 25%, mostly due to online purchases, and that's already translating into more jobs for programmers and digital artists.
In Nova Scotia, I believe there's upwards of 30 openings right now in an industry that employs about 300 people. In Quebec, there is about 2,000 job openings right now in an industry that employs 13,000 people. This is in the middle of what is the worst economic situation in 75 years.
It's so quiet here.
It is very quiet here.
The gaming industry has also had to adjust to remote work, but don't let the empty studio fool you. This gaming company is among those hiring due to high sales.
We've brought on about 16 people, and we're still in the hunt for another 4 or 5.
The question post-pandemic will be whether people will continue spending so much time playing video games when they can return to other activities.
people will have learned a behavior. They will have been introduced to games, found an affinity for games, or the communities and the friends that they've made.
Tony Hunt says he won't be one of them.
Score.
Video games are helping him through the pandemic, but he says he'll be back volunteering in the community just as soon as he's able. Kayla Hounsel, CBC News, Lunenburg, Nova Scotia.
Coming up, as new COVID-19 variants emerge, doctors are sounding the alarm about new dangers. But how does it change for us personally? Our doctors panel is in to answer your questions. But first, that is the unmistakable guitar riff that launched a global hit for the Animals in 1964. Today, fans and colleagues are mourning Hilton Valentine, the guitarist who revolutionized this classic blues song.
They call the rising sun.
It went #1 in Canada, the US, and the UK, and it was recorded in one take. Valentine was proud of the riff. The chords were part of his Twitter handle, and years later, he was still glad to play it.
There is a house. That's the Bob Dylan version.
Yeah. What a great song.
Valentine left the band in 1966, but he returned within a decade to that signature sound he played such a part in.
Dick.
These variants represent a real challenge.
We have been hearing about variants of the coronavirus for weeks now. Two of them, one first found in the UK, the other in South Africa, have now been confirmed in Canada. And that has officials sounding the alarm.
If these new strains take hold, the consequences will be dire.
The third wave is going to be upon us very soon, and that third wave is much worse than the first and second combined.
On Friday, Ottawa announced new mandatory quarantine rules to discourage non-essential travel, with flights to Mexico and the Caribbean suspended until the end of April, all in hopes of curbing the spread of the variants. But will it work? And have we learned anything new about these variants? We're joined now by infectious disease specialist Dr. Lisa Barrett and once again Dr. Zain Chagla. Dr. Barrett, let's begin with the travel restrictions announced by the federal government. There's concern that they're not enough. And here's what the federal transport minister had to say on Rosemary Barton Live this morning.
We even considered banning all flights, but that would have had a detrimental impact on our the delivery of essential products and services to Canada.
So, Dr. Barrett, how do you feel about what the government has done in terms of travel?
It's a great step. Clearly, we weren't getting there with restricting international travel without some restrictions. And so this gives people a little bit of something to fall back on. However, I do think that one of the key hallmarks of some of these variants, wherever they are, inside or outside our borders, is that they may transmit very quickly and quite possibly before we can keep track of them. And so that means that what I'm saying is that international travel restriction is great, but we also need to be very, very aware that we should be restricting travel within our borders across the country to just essential travel as well. And so I would look forward to people picking up on that fairly quickly and paying attention to the quarantine rules that go along with the travel restrictions.
And of course, you're in Halifax, and the ban on interprovincial travel, or at least the restrictions, have worked well for your province.
They've worked very well, and as much as I love Atlantic Canadians and Nova Scotians, as well as our leadership, which have been very effective, part of our success, outside being on the edge of the continent, is that we are very, very, very aware of lack of travel and quarantine. So, the proof is a little bit in the pudding there.
All right, Dr. Chagla, here's a question we received about variants.
Is it possible that the COVID-19 virus currently in Canada has already mutated and simply taken on the same genetic structure as the variant in the UK or South Africa?
Dr. Chagla?
Yeah, it's a great question. So viruses undergo mutation. That's part of a normal process like every other being on Earth. But, these mutations that are described in the variants, both in South Africa and Brazil and the UK, are essentially like a fingerprint. They're unique to these strains. There's a set of different mutations that really set it apart from others. And so, yes, viruses could mutate to be similar to the UK, Brazil, and South Africa, but essentially when we're looking for these strains, we are looking specifically for these fingerprints, not something in Canada that has switched to that.
And, we know that the variant that originally was in the UK is in Ontario. And I guess, Dr. Chagla, it makes us realize that it makes the vulnerable even more vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to figure out where this is going to spread, all you have to do is look at where COVID is spreading now and really interpose that. It's long-term care facilities, it's vulnerable populations, it's essential workers. And so, unfortunately, they're going to probably see the variant before the average individual who's sheltering at home will.
All right, let's go to our next question on video.
Given this new strain of coronavirus, I've heard mixed things about double masking. Whereas Dr. Fauci says it's absolutely necessary, other doctors seem to disagree. Can you give me your thoughts?
I'll ask both of you, but Dr. Barrett, you first on double masking and masking outside. What's your view?
This has come up since the variant issue of perhaps more transmission has also come up. And quite frankly, the US, where Dr. Fauci is, and Canada, fortunately, are two very different environments at the moment. Right now, we don't have any suggestion or reason for us to consider wearing double masks when we can do the things we know work. So that's stay apart from each other and wear a good mask well. And so right now the answer is wear the mask you have well and maintain distance where it's possible, and that should be entirely sufficient. You know, things always change, but that's the advice for now.
And Dr. Chagla, what about masking outside?
Yeah, I mean, the outdoors has incredible ventilation. And so in the context of environments where you can distance or have very brief contact with individuals, I don't think a mask is necessarily the most optimal. If you want to wear one, then so be it. It's really in those settings where people are in close contact, where distancing is difficult for a prolonged amount of time, that one should consider a mask, like outdoor recreational activities on a skating rink.
All right, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
All the best.
The variant first discovered in the UK is now the dominant strain in that country. Some say the holidays are to blame.
People traveling all around the country was just the best thing to do to spread a new virus.
Up next, lessons from the UK as they battle a more infectious variant. Welcome back. Sir Captain Tom Moore, a pandemic hero in Britain and around the world, has been admitted to hospital with COVID-19. You may remember these images of the Second World War veteran who set out to do 100 laps in his garden before his 100th birthday and raise tens of millions of dollars for British hospitals. According to his daughter, he went to hospital for help with his breathing, but he is not in intensive care. It was exactly a year ago that the UK detected its first cases of COVID-19. Since then, the virus has killed more people per capita than almost any other country. Margaret Evans looks into how this disaster happened.
In dark times, people seek the light, the burning ember of a winter sun on the horizon, and hills to climb in search of perspective. A year after the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the United Kingdom, more than 100,000 people have now died of it. Hundreds more follow in their footsteps every day, slipping from view and leaving in their wake sorrow and grief and questions that won't go away.
So we head over to a virtual leader of the opposition, Right Honourable Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the Prime Minister regrets the fact that 100,000 people have lost their lives. The question is why? Why has the United Kingdom a death rate that's higher than almost anywhere in the world?
This was Boris Johnson taking questions in the British Parliament last week.
There will indeed be a time when we must learn the lessons of what has happened, reflect on them and prepare, Mr. Speaker. I don't think that moment is now when we are in the throes of fighting this wave of the new variant.
For his critics, though, it is precisely Johnson's failure to learn from his missteps in the spring that has led to an even more devastating fall and now winter.
With the first lockdown, everything got shut and then everything was open again. And then the virus spread it again.
Street artist Nathan Bowen is braving lockdown fines to paint a mural in the middle of London. Providing people with a little hope in bleak times, he says, is essential. So we're saying thank you.
The paramedics do the hardest job. They're the ones that deliver the patients. So I think it's important to, put them up on the street.
London ambulances have become ubiquitous in the capital, pacing the streets and delivering fragile cargo to waiting hospitals and care workers at breaking point. There were about 18,000 people in hospitals with COVID-19 over Christmas. Just over a month later, there are more than 30,000.
The numbers that we're seeing of death and people dying is something that I don't think anybody can really fully grasp. Yeah.
We first met Canadian acute medicine doctor Aman Sandhu last spring when she was dealing with the first wave of COVID-19 patients in the UK. It was hard enough then, she says. This time, the number in hospital is nearly double that, leaving many facilities short-staffed and struggling to find room for patients.
We were having to triage them outside in the parking lot. We just did not have the capacity to actually see them in the hospital.
Sandhu had hoped there might be more support for the National Health Service after the first wave, especially after the Prime Minister succumbed to the virus. Here he is clapping for healthcare workers just before being taken to hospital himself. Now, says Sandhu, many healthcare workers simply feel taken for granted by a government that hasn't done its homework.
And the timing of the lockdown is reflective of that, where our doctors and scientists were saying, no, these restrictions need to come in sooner, and they didn't. So I think that speaks for itself in a way.
Johnson waited until January 4th to impose the latest lockdown here, despite weeks of warnings from his own experts. Earlier in September, he also resisted their advice when they called for a circuit break to curb rising infections after a summer when the government opened travel corridors to other countries and encouraged people to eat out to help out the economy. Asked in Parliament why UK infections were still higher than in other European countries, Johnson replied that Britain is simply more freedom-loving.
Virtually every advance from free speech to democracy has come from this country, and it is very difficult to ask the British population uniformly to obey guidelines in the way that it is necessary.
It hasn't helped with the messaging, already confused. And critics say Johnson's British exceptionalism has consistently undermined efforts to fight the pandemic. David King is a former chief scientific advisor for Britain.
It's a problem of leadership, and I'm quite convinced that if an alternative leader was in place, it could be Theresa May, could be the present leader of the opposition, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now.
The government argues that the reason things have spun so badly out of control in recent months is because of the detection in early December of a new, more contagious strain of the virus. King insists it doesn't let the government off the hook.
We really gave that new mutant a big boost by having that Christmas break. People traveling all around the country was just the best thing to do to spread a new virus. And now, of course, it's right across the United Kingdom.
There is, though, hope on the horizon. You'll find a piece of it at Salisbury Cathedral. Vaccinations by lamplight and organ music. One of the venues the NHS has commandeered to deliver vaccines the government gambled on back in the spring. 9 million people have now been given their shots, putting Britain in the top 3 of vaccinating countries, and offering a potential saving grace for Johnson, according to Conservative MP and former Health Minister Jeremy Hunt, who admits there have been plenty of mistakes.
But I also think history will factor in the fact that Britain has been the most successful large country when it comes to the vaccine rollout, and that may well save many lives during the course of this year. And so I think from the government's point of view, they will point to that as well as being a very important part of our overall response.
The success of the vaccination program, relying on the NHS and local health authorities, contrasts with Johnson's failure to deliver what he said would be a world-beating test, trace and isolate system. The government paid millions of pounds to private companies with no healthcare experience, and it's still struggling today.
This is the single biggest flaw in our pandemic handling strategy at the moment, that we have this huge number of people who are asked to self-isolate every week because they've been near someone who's got COVID, and they're not. And a lot of them are actually going to work. It's about 240,000 people every week.
The potential for the virus to mutate beyond the reach of the current batch of vaccines is also of real concern, as are fears that people suffering lockdown fatigue will see the vaccine as a reason to let go. There is already a sense here of lockdown light compared to the first one, even though the numbers are so much higher and the pressure on the NHS so much greater.
You feel angry, you feel upset, because like I said, we're still showing up to work every day, and we're seeing the numbers, and we're seeing the effects that this is having on patients and their families.
It increases the sense of distance here between those confronting the daily reality of the fight against the pandemic in the hospitals and in the morgues, and those on the other side of the curtain, where the sheer volume of the daily death count can serve to numb and render faceless all those who've passed. If ever there were a time for lessons learned, this is surely it. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Coming up, the U.S. is putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, an effort first introduced under President Obama, now being revived by President Biden.
The Treasury Department is taking steps to resume efforts to put Harriet Tubman on the front of the new $20 notes.
Well, the announcement, the White House reintroducing an initiative to get Harriet Tubman on the country's $20 bill. She famously helped free enslaved people using the Underground Railroad, often getting them to safety in Canada. Tubman's great-great-great-grandniece spoke about what it means for her relative to be remembered this way. And that's our moment.
Well, as before, I'm glad that they're coming back to it. America is a very diverse country. That's one of the things that makes us a good country, a great country that can be great, is that we represent many cultures, not just one. And it's about uniting. And that's what Aunt Harriet, that was her attitude when she fought for the Civil War. Her idea was the only way America could be this great country that she now lives in was ancestors were brought here, and she's not going anywhere. She said is that to free the enslaved and to allow them to fight and defend this country and make it united. It's a great thing. I'm elated for it.
A diverse country, but she will become the first African American to be on U.S. paper currency, the first woman in generations. And of course, this is filled with symbolism, including the fact that the person on the $20 bill right now is Andrew Jackson, a president, but also a slave owner. That is the National for January 31st. Good night.